Welcome, dear friends, to the Military Reporter channel. As always, we continue to make selections of what is happening from the front line. The footage received from the fighters of the Tigray UAV detachment shows an accurate and consistent strike on a column of armored vehicles of the armed forces of Ukraine near the village of Belivody. Drone footage shows how, during intensive combat operations, Russian operators destroy a column of 6 enemy armored vehicles. The Ukrainian armed forces, trying to organize a counterattack and push back the Russian troops, deployed NATO armored vehicles to this area. The American Stryker and M113 armored personnel carriers, HMWV armored vehicles, Turkish Kirpi, as well as Soviet BT-80, which were moving along a country road in the direction of Belivody, went on the offensive. The column was heading for a breakthrough to the positions of the 83rd Separate Airborne Assault Brigade of the Russian Airborne Forces, which was conducting a sweep of the locality. However, the advance was disrupted. The enemy equipment was spotted by the Tiger Squad operators almost immediately after entering the open area. Attack quadricopters and FPV drones with suspended ammunition launched an alternating attack. The HMWV armored vehicle, moving at the head of the column, was the first to be hit. The hit caused a fire and a traffic stop. The drones then hit the Turkish Kirpi. The crew tried to evacuate, but was covered by a repeat attack. Then the drones struck the BTR-80 and Stryker. The latter's front end was torn off. The final blow was an attack on the closing M113, after which the column completely stopped and began to burn. The riders in the cars began to stampede. Some of them were killed by repeated drone strikes. Some tried to take shelter in a wooded area, but there they were covered by artillery strikes, adjusted from the air. The 83rd Brigade of the Russian Airborne Forces used the moment of enemy disorganization and began advancing deep into the village of Belivody, occupying street after street. The Ukrainian command did not expect such an accurate and fast drone attack, which led to... In the following footage you can see how the UAV operators' combat work is analyzed and dismantled.
Мгновение наших дронов уже столько, что они просто рвут на части украинскую бронегруппу. Вот один за другим беспилотники сжигают машину, несмотря на антидроновые щиты.
Поражен FPV дроном БТР-80 противника в районе населенного пункта Яблони.
Да, молодцы. Следующий воздух.
Не атака, а просто самоубийственный марш.
Товарищ командующий, колонна уничтожена. В количестве 6 единиц.
This is how a pickup truck of the Ukrainian armed forces was shot down by a Russian drone. The footage shows Ukrainian soldiers wounded and the equipment on fire. Thanks to the successful attack of the drones, the Ukrainian armed forces were unable to rotate. Dear friends, if you are interested in the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel so that you do not miss new releases. And to keep up to date, click on the bell. Thanks for watching and we'll continue. Footage from the Turetsky direction, Donbass. Unique footage, the work of advanced aircraft manufacturers from the Smugglyanka division, directly from the first person. A video taken from the TV camera of one of the fighters shows rare footage of combat coordination of an air strike from the ground. The soldiers of the Smugglyanka, being in the immediate vicinity of the contact line, detected enemy activity on one of the observation towers deep in the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. According to aerial and radio intelligence, the facility was used as a field observation post. From there, artillery fire was adjusted at Russian positions, as well as movements in the rear were monitored. After confirming the target and clarifying the coordinates through an automated targeting system, the fighters transferred the target to the crew of the Su-34 frontline bomber. A high-precision X-38mm missile, guided by a laser beam, was fired from the aircraft. Guidance was provided by those most advanced spotters, the eyes of the impact on the ground. The X-38ML is a guided missile with a laser homing head designed to destroy fortified targets, command posts, equipment and bridges. The use of this particular missile in this area underlines the importance and priority of the destroyed object. A few seconds after launch, the frame shows a smoke trail from the rocket appearing in the sky, and just a moment later, a direct hit into the base of the tower. A powerful explosion shakes the surroundings. The tower shatters into pieces, concrete structures collapse, fire and black smoke rise up. According to confirmed data, the Ukrainian Armed Forces observation post was destroyed. All military personnel who were at the facility at the time of the strike, presumably up to 8 people, were eliminated. A serious blow has been inflicted on the enemy's artillery coordination system in this area. It is also reported that similar strikes from the X-38 regularly take out logistics routes of the armed forces of Ukraine bridge crossings, ammunition depots and temporary bases for the deployment of personnel This operation is an example of high coordination of forces on the ground and in the air. The work of the Smugglyanka has already been noted by the command, and the footage itself has become an illustration of how precision airstrikes with advanced guidance can change the situation at the front. Russian forces have destroyed the locations of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate and the 14th Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces near Kupiansk, Kharkiv region, with FAB 3000 and FAB 500 bombs. The Russian Air Force launched a FAB 3000 strike on a temporary deployment point of Ukrainian armed forces in Kupiansk. Fierce fighting continues in the Dnieper River floodplain, where flooded floodplains, dense reeds and narrow channels make the area difficult for heavy equipment. The enemy does not stop trying to stay on the islands and is advancing in small mobile groups using small boats and motorboats. The Ukrainian armed forces operate mainly at night and at dawn, landing groups of 5 to 10 people on tactical bridgeheads along the coast. Their task is to gain a foothold in the coastal zone, set up temporary shelters and establish crossings for subsequent groups. In some areas, they are trying to advance towards the left bank positions of the Russian army, threatening to expand the island bridgehead. Russian units, including reconnaissance and assault groups and Marines, conduct continuous surveillance and counter-surveillance of the riverbed using thermal imagers, drones, and ambush operations. As soon as the landing is recorded, mortars, automatic grenade launchers, and small arms fire is opened on the enemy. In addition, shock FPV drones are often used, which operate both at the stage of disembarkation and at the moment when the Ukrainian DRGs come ashore. Some targets are destroyed at the moment of unloading or crossing the channels. Anti-amphibious actions are being reinforced by artillery and aviation. In the case of a larger landing, it is used. Artillery adjustments from drones, strikes with precision-guided munitions, including Krasnopol. The enemy is suffering losses. In recent days, the destruction of several amphibious motorboats has been noted, as well as the elimination of more than 24 Ukrainian armed forces fighters in the coastal zone. Nevertheless, the enemy's command continues to put pressure, trying to keep the Russian defense in suspense in this area. The areas around the Bolshoi-Potemkinsky Islands, the Cossack camps and the flooded floodplain between the Bear Pier and Alyashki remain the most tense. Uncovering of an Ukrainian armed forces long-range firing point using a reconnaissance UAV of the southern group of forces and its subsequent destruction using a 152mm Krasnopol-corrected artillery munition near the village of Bogodar. Intelligence has identified a fortified Ukrainian armed forces stronghold on one of the frontline sections in the zone of responsibility of the Russian grouping of troops, Center. According to data from drones and radio intercepts, there was up to an enemy platoon at the position, as well as communications, surveillance equipment, and portable SAMs. The stronghold was carefully camouflaged in a wooded area, reinforced with firing points, and posed a threat to the advance of Russian assault groups. To suppress this target, a Ka-52M attack helicopter, part of the Army aviation, took to the air. The vehicle operated at low altitude, using the natural terrain to reach the attack line. The combat approach was carried out in difficult weather conditions, low cloud cover, and smoke from recent artillery attacks. The crew used stealth approach mode to minimize the risk of Ukrainian manpads launches. After reaching the target, the helicopter fired high-precision guided missiles of the Viker type, one of which accurately hit the center of the fortified point. The result was a direct hit on the command and observation post, after which the ammunition inside the fortification detonated. Visual confirmation of the strike came from the corrector drone. The positions were destroyed, fire and collapse of part of the fortifications were observed. After working off the target, the Ka-52M crew abruptly retreated to low altitude and left the target area. During the withdrawal, an attempt to launch manpads by the AFU was recorded, but heat traps and maneuvering allowed them to avoid being hit. Lancet in action. A UAV unit hit enemy artillery shelling Novaya Kakhovka. In the Kherson direction, a Lancet unmanned aerial vehicle unit successfully destroyed an Ukrainian armed forces artillery piece. The strike was carried out right at the moment of preparing another salvo. The piece was completely disabled. Images of heavy flamethrower system strikes on landings with enemy fighters on the border of Sumy and Belgorod regions, filmed from a unique angle. The epic liquidation of the Ukrainian military. The soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine went out to reconnoiter the Russian positions, but their movement was recorded by a Russian reconnaissance drone. After accurately identifying the location of the enemy, a group of Ukrainian intelligence officers was immediately attacked using an FPV drone. Another American-made MRAP M1224 International Max Pro destroyed in the South Donetsk direction is a Ukrainian MRAP M1224 International Max Pro. That's it, dear friends. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to click on the bell so that you don't miss new releases. Leave your comments. Your opinion is very important to us. See you soon.
Вот это пушечка.